This is Saudi Arabia, where women have recently been allowed to drive cars as part of the Crown Prince's social reforms, or sweeping social reforms, as it's usually referred to inside the kingdom. Yet the radius of these reforms has been exaggerated. The shocking case of Abdurrahman al-Sadhan, a 37-year-old aid worker with the Red Crescent, proves that the reforms in Saudi society hardly exceed window dressing.
الحادث اللي حدث مؤلم جدا لجميع السعوديين.
As a political satirist, Abdurrahman al-Sadhan would use a popular parody account to mock the Saudi government for a couple of years. Little did he know that Riyadh had already hired some agents inside Twitter to infiltrate into Saudi accounts. In 2018, al-Sadhan was identified and arrested and stood trial. Now he has been sentenced to 20 years in prison plus 20 years more of travel ban.
I think that that what has happened reflects the insecurity of the regime, not insecurity from fear of, say, physical force or a military attack or something like that, but it reflects the fear that is there inherent in the fragility of their egos, of the leadership's ego. And so they can't deal with any sort of criticism. And this is sort of a real common phenomenon with dictatorships across the world.
While Twitter has not revealed the identities of individuals who were possibly exposed in the infiltration, the connection between Sadhan's arrest and the alleged breach in 2014 was first reported last year by Bloomberg. In addition to Sadhan, human rights organizations said they have identified 6 Saudi citizens who've been arrested in connection with anonymous Twitter accounts they ran. This is Arij al-Sadhan on her brother's case.
My brother, unfortunately, was one of those targeted by the Twitter spies, or rather, by the Saudi officials. Basically, he had an anonymous Twitter account like many other Saudi people, and he was expressing his opinion. He was criticizing, issues related to social justice, human rights. He wasn't actually that heavy in terms of his activism or even criticism. He didn't really have much interest in politics. But it was more of a personal expression. He just liked to express his opinion. And, when you're actually following Twitter, especially in Saudi Arabia, it's easy for you to feel like, you can't stay silent and you want to talk, you want to express, and it's something normal. It's a normal, human aspect.
Omar Abdulaziz, a Saudi dissident living in Canada and a friend of the slain journalist Jamal Khashoggi, said in an exclusive interview to The Guardian that the FBI showed him a number of exposed accounts following the breach, including an account used by Sadhan. When I met the FBI, they gave me a list, and I saw a couple of accounts that had been compromised, including @Sama7T. I think more than one person has been jailed because of this. @Sama70 is the parody account Sadhan used to run.
The internet has become an alternate battleground, essentially, both for governments and for their oppositions. And so it's quite possible that the Saudis have the technological capacity to go in and survey the various elements within the internet, looking for people who might express, opposition in words or in pictures.
Abdurrahman al-Sadhan's stiff sentence came after a long period of disappearance. His family didn't hear from him for 23 months. When his father saw him for the first time, Abdurrahman's health had deteriorated after months of being held in solitary confinement. Critics say enforced disappearance is a stock in trade of Riyadh when treating its opponents, a crime out of control.
If you look at what happened to Khashoggi, the journalist, and now with Saddam, it seems quite clear that their thuggery, if you will, is quite open because they don't think that there's anybody out there who can hold them responsible. And so I wouldn't give them the honor of calling them a government. Actually, they're a dictatorship and they rule by force, and their leadership is insecure in that position, and so they overreact to criticism.
The arrest of Sadhan is part of a larger attempt by the Crown Prince to establish its foothold in Saudi Arabia as the next king. The crackdowns have seen Saudi authorities arrest senior royals, activists, intellectuals, and clerics. Strangely enough, as a political satirist, al-Sadhan was tried in the so-called counter-terrorism court, a clear message to those who turn their pens against the Saudi establishment. In fact, Mohammed bin Salman has over and over again proved that writing against the government is a crime that carries an automatic life sentence or so. Sadhan's family say he faced a secret trial at the same court that had initially sentenced women's rights activists Loujain al-Hathlul to nearly 6 years in prison. Shortly after the trial, MENA Rights Group tweeted, "We're appalled to learn that Abdurrahman al-Sadhan was sentenced to 20 years in prison and a 20-year travel ban after a sham trial before the Saudi Specialized Criminal Court. He has been detained arbitrarily for over 3 years and deprived of his own basic rights."
They're saying, look, we are your masters, and so you don't mess with us, because we will destroy you, and we will even destroy your reputation within Saudi culture or the Saudi population, because we can label you a terrorist. Doesn't matter about the victim matching up with any normal definition. We would just arbitrarily call you a terrorist, and we will. And you will go down in history as we tell you to go down. As we describe you. And so it's a warning, if you will, to others not to do this.
Al-Sadhan's case is significant in another aspect. The heavy sentence came just as the Biden administration criticized Saudi Arabia for its poor human rights record. It shows that the Saudi de facto leader does not care much about what the world might think of his violations of human rights, and that the gruesome murder of Jamal Khashoggi was not just an accident, but the tip of the iceberg.
الحادث اللي حدث مؤلم جدا لجميع السعوديين.